Going live now.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Nation. Today we're talking about one of the most bizarre animes of all time, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you are watching this on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to help support see more great content like the Marvel Mondays Initiative, the Penultimate Conquest Podcast, and the Penultimate Conquest Game Show. And my show, Anime Nation. Also, remember, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime, which gives you one free Twitch subscription. Maybe think about giving us that sub. If you missed out on any of this week's content, check the VODs, and even check the schedule if that ever gets updated. For those of you who don't know, my name is Ryan, host of Anime Nation. Got a great guest with me, a regular over here at Anime Nation, my boy, the Metroid Man, John. How you doing, John?
I'm doing very well today. Part of how I was preparing for today, I was watching some JoJo's. I've been rewatching stuff because I want to get caught up for part 6 in December. So I finished part 3 today, and I started a couple episodes of part 4.
All right. And now, before we get into the big topics of today, we got a bit of housekeeping to do. Tonight and tomorrow we have Halo streams going on because that's a prize drop. Great game, definitely try it out if you haven't, and stop on by if you want to see some craziness. And then tomorrow we're talking all things Xbox, the 20th anniversary, and you know I'll be there because I'm the biggest Xbox shill in this group. And before we get into the big topic, I also want to talk a bit of anime history. I like to do this when I have on these 1v1s. John, tell me a little bit of what got you into anime.
In an anime, it was a little bit of a couple different things because, like, growing up, Pokemon and Digimon came out around the time that I was starting to watch like TV a lot. So that had an influence on it. But of all the things, I think the biggest one was playing Sonic Adventure 2 and then noticing that there was a Japanese voice option, and then on my like second, third playthroughs playing it in Japanese. But I think what really like made me go, "Oh, this is like a different thing from like just regular animation," was a friend at school when I was in middle school. She was just like, "Here's the first 2 DVD sets of Full Metal Alchemist. Watch them. They're one of the best shows ever." And I watched them, and then it's the very first episode is like religion. It's kind of screwed up, isn't it? Science is what's best. And then like 4 episodes down, there's a scientist who's like, "I'm gonna commit some atrocities." And the show like very clearly lays out that like there's positives and negatives to like every thought process out there, and it's about like recognizing humanity and stuff. And as a kid, I had never seen something laid out so great and so like looking at different sides of different coins. Um, I guess I was more of a teenager. This was like 13, 14. Um, and then after that, I discovered Naruto on Toonami, and then I kind of went from there.
Okay.
I caught up to Naruto, and then I was like, time to watch it in Japanese because I found websites for that, and that's how I started watching anime in Japanese.
What time of Naruto was this? Like, what were you catching up to? Is this Beat Tuning Exam, Sasuke, retake arc? What are we at here?
It was tuning exams. Well, it was weird because like for a while I was still watching week to week because I think I caught up to just before the tuning exams. So then like
Before they get dropped in the big pit?
um no, like right when the one-on-one fights started, like right before the Gara Rock Lee fight, and everyone goes, "Oh shit, this is Naruto."
Yeah.
So
I
I
will
was
still go
watching.
back and watch that fight some days.
Yeah,
God, it's good.
I watched it week to week until after the like big giant battle on Konoha, and then they're like, "What do we do for the next arc? We're getting a little too close to the manga now." And then they're like, let's look for the next Hokage." We moved a couple towns over, and then that's where I first started like getting the feel for filler. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And then that's when I discovered like oh yeah, this is just extra stuff that they threw in that's not in the manga. And that's when I started watching like the subtitles. And then my brother was like, "Yeah, this has been out for like 5 years, so Japan has already started out with a time skip now." And I was like, "God damn."
I
Um,
remember when that happened in the manga. I remember reading it. I'm like, wait, it's been a year and now they're like 17,
yep, yep.
and everyone is like powered up. All right, I guess I'll work with this, and then it ended up still being some great stuff in there.
Hmm.
Now, John, since I've talked anime with you before, I know you are a big Studio Trigger fan, and I
Yes.
want to know what show led you down that path.
Um, I guess pre Studio Trigger, there was one day where I was just like staying with my friends, and then Code Geass pops up on Adult Swim, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. This is like like Death Note with mechas. And then later on, I'm telling like one of my friends, this is a couple years later, how much I loved Code Geass, and he was
Uh-huh.
like, you want to see a good mecha show? There's this thing called Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, and I'm like, this is the first time I've heard an anime with just the Japanese title where no one is like
Yeah,
like before this it was like Death Note, Code Geass, like that sounds
Full
like
Metal
English.
Alchemist. Yeah.
Tengen Toppa and Lagann, I'm just like that is a bunch of vowels next to each other. What does that mean? Um, and then this is like the torrenting age, so he just like hands me a USB stick and it's like it's got all of it on here. And then we start watching it together, just like a couple episodes every day, and I'm like, dang, this shit is hype. And then from there, um, they finish. A couple years later, that's Gainax era.
Yeah,
I watch Fooly Cooley, which was done by the same
Gainax era,
director.
but ah, God, one of my personal favorites.
And then they announced Panty and Stocking, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna be there every episode. And so every Friday afternoon, at this point I'm in college, a new episode would be out, and so I come back from classes and relax and start my weekend with the Power Hour, which was Nichijou to like spice me up, and then Panty and Stocking to kind of climax and
Those
finish
are
it.
two very. It was a very comedy heavy season for you there.
Yeah, yeah. So I loved Panty and Stocking. The final episode ends with like Stocking betraying Panty and the infamous title card. Next
Yeah.
time on season 2, never happened.
Nope,
Um,
and never will.
and then a couple years down the line more, I hear about a Kickstarter for this studio called Studio Trigger. It has the guy who created Gurren Lagann and Panty and Stocking. Um, and they're talking about a show called Little Witch Academia. I didn't have money, but if I had money at the time, I would have thrown shit down. Luckily, enough people did. They got a short out. That short did well enough and put on Netflix that they made a second short for Little Witch Academia. And to my surprise, neither of those shorts have any fan service or panty shots or anything. So I watched them with my little sister, and she was like, "I like this show. This is like anime Harry Potter." And I was like, "I know." And then a couple years later, they're like, "All right, I'm teaming up with the writer that we worked on Gurren Lagann with, and this is a show about fascism and fashion, and it's called Kill la Kill. And you have this teenage girl walking around with it's a magical girl show where she gets naked, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I'll watch anything Studio Trigger. And then that show just has some of the dankest, most extreme, intense fight scenes ever.
Oh my God.
Um,
The
and I was
whole
just like,
arc where they're trying to figure out who will roll the school next.
yep.
That does some great fight scenes. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Gamaguri, one of my favorite characters of all time.
Of course, yes.
All
Um,
right.
yeah. Then after that, I was hooked.
And now, final question for a little bit of anime history is: at the moment, give me your top 3 anime you've watched this year.
This year, okay. It's gonna be weird because like I don't keep up with seasons and stuff
That's
super
fine.
well.
Just what have you
Um,
been watching this year?
so I'm just gonna throw out JoJo's. I've been rewatching it from the beginning and just being like, yeah, there's a reason why people love the shit out of this anime. Um, So JoJo's is good actually. My brother, because he knows that I'm really bad at. I'll be like, yeah, I'll get to that eventually. I definitely want to check out that show. he just walked up to me when we were hanging out one day, and he was like, "Here's the season 1 Blu-ray of Demon Slayer. Watch it." And so that guilt tripped me into watching Demon Slayer. I am actually, aside from the movie, which we're gonna hang out and watch together because he's only seen up to before the movie. And I think he got the movie on Blu-ray as well. So at some point we're gonna see that together. But I watched all of Demon Slayer besides the movie, and I really dig that show. Pretty cool. I like the animation style. I mean, it's Ufotable. I don't know how it's pronounced. I always want to say
Affordable.
I always want to say UFO table, but it's Ufotable.
Affordable.
Um, and they make really good shit.
They do. They do.
Um, what else have I seen this year? There was something that I was watching before JoJo's that I finished. Um, uh,
World Ends Review.
oh yeah, I watched the World Ends with You anime. Yes, yes. That's a little bit on the. It's weird because for an anime adaptation of a JRPG, it's pretty good, but those are always almost super terrible. Um, and I think the only reason why The World Ends with You is pretty good is because it's a 20-hour JRPG instead of a 50-hour JRPG.
Yeah, I'd say
Um,
it's a bit better than the Persona 5 anime, but not
yeah.
better than the Persona 4 anime.
Mm-hmm.
That's right about. I'd put it somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah. I think a big thing that helps is that they just CGI'd all the monsters. So they don't have like the problem that some of the Persona animes have, where everyone's suddenly off model and they can't keep up.
Yeah, but
Um,
an amazing ability to keep the look and style of a game with such a unique art style.
yes,
Even back
yeah.
then, that game had a unique art style.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like everyone's like, yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a very unique art style. Even compared to like Kingdom Hearts, it is so unique in its
Mm-hmm.
stylings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shout out to Shibuya, great
Um,
place.
well, actually, I just remembered. I watched like the first half of My Hero this season. I just got bogged down by life and stuff like trying to finish Demon Slayer and JoJo's. But everything I saw in My Hero, I was digging. Always
Did you
cool to
just start
see.
My Hero or just this new season of My Hero?
Just like the first half of the season, like the team battles where they kind of scrambled
Yeah,
everyone up. That was interesting.
some
And I
cool
did.
powers in there.
Yeah. Oh, we got to see what's his face. Um, Tokoyami, the Shadow Guy's new ability. Which
Yeah,
is it's really cool, but it's kind of funny because it's just, oh yeah, you can fly now, and then you just like hold me, and so it's just Tokoyami looking like this while
yep.
his shadow monster is just like carrying him. But
This
yeah,
is my
that
son. I protect him.
exactly.
All right, and with that, that's a bit of anime history for John. Now let's jump into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo. All right, first let's just talk a bit about JoJo's. JoJo's is a show that's and manga and franchise that's been around since the late '80s, early '80s, mid '80s.
Yeah.
That really caught on in the late 2010s, mid 2010s is really when it got going again.
So there are like three. I'm gonna go with two. There are like two eras to the
Yeah.
English JoJo's fandom because before the anime adaptation, which is obviously how it got really big, it
hmm
came
There's the
right.
OVA.
Yeah, there's the OVA. But part of the reason why people know about the OVA is because of the Capcom fighting game that was released in America before we had
Yes.
anything JoJo's. And that happened because basically at the time Capcom every year was like, all right, here's the next Street Fighter 2 version. Here's the next Street
hmm
Fighter 2. Here's we got a Darkstalkers thing. And then they found themselves in Japan. They're like, okay, we're delaying Street Fighter 3 another year or something so that we can make it a better quality game and kind of make it more unique compared to the last Street Fighter 2 version. So in America, they're like, we need some kind of new machine out. All the arcades are like, that's how we make a lot of our money. Is the new Street Fighter just dropped? Everyone's pumping in quarters. So then they were like, here's this JoJo's thing. There's a guy in a hat. He has like you have like spirit buddies that like pop out and you can fight against each other.
This is the most broken fighting game character of all time. Shout out to Pet Shop. You can't hit him
Shout
for
out to Pet
shit.
Shop, and
And he
yeah,
has full screen projectiles. The
yep.
perfect way to design a character.
Um, I part of that is that I think he got fixed in like the second version, and that version never came out in America.
Okay,
Um,
because I've played that game. I played it on PlayStation, not on a Xbox game. The Xbox, God, what was it called before? Games Pass and all that, like their
uh,
store on the 360 era.
okay, yeah, maybe that version. Okay, so maybe it's just completely broken because I think
No,
that one
he is
had
just
both versions.
broken.
Then never mind. But I
Um,
think that fighting game, kind of made a decent amount of people, and like people that are like, this feels very manga
mhm.
anime-y, to like check out the OVA around that time because it did get an English release.
Yeah,
Um,
the OVA and the game, right? Yeah,
yeah,
because the
yeah,
game I've seen like rare copies of it before, like on Dreamcast and shit.
yeah. It got a very small release.
I think I've seen one real cabinet of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I There's a arcade by me that has like a bunch of generic arcade cabinets that have just like a emulator system put in, and so
Hmm.
it has like 3,000 video games, and so JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like right in the middle in the chase. So
Oh god, what's it called? JoJo's Star Crusaders, right? Yeah, something like
I
that.
think so.
Stardust
Um,
Crusaders, which would make sense. That is the
yeah, it's
part
all
of
part three
it.
stuff. Yep.
Which the first time I ever got introduced to JoJo was back near a decade ago through a at the time small anime channel, the Anime Man Giguk, top 20 anime fights, where OVA
Ooh.
Dio versus Jotaro made it. I was like, what is this? This looks awesome. So god, I must have been 13 then. 13-year-old me goes searches up this OVA on some sketchy ass website and pops it. I'm like, okay, no, I get this. This is weird, but it's cool. And the fight scenes in this are really cool. It has that old school anime flair to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then about, who I'd say a year later, is the announcement of oh, we are just redoing JoJo. JoJo is finally getting its full release. They are going to go through and start it, which sadly they did start with the arguably I'd say JoJo gets better with every part, and then it kind of plateaus, and then after part three up, if you told me any of the parts are your favorite, I'd accept all of them. I'm not trusting a person who tells me part two is their favorite part of JoJo's.
Ooh, you might not trust me.
Is part two your favorite?
Um, it's kind of an iffy thing because here's the thing. I don't think part two is my favorite. I think young Joseph Joestar is my favorite protagonist JoJo.
He's your favorite Jobro?
Yeah, and I have a lot of favorite fights from part two. And I think Hamon was like a genuinely cool thing, but I think that the reason why they never use it again is because they probably did every cool thing they could think of between part one and two. Which is why everything has been stands since then, because stands can kind of be everything.
Yeah, no, stands are biffing. So let's start with just going on through the parts. We'll give a little summary and talk about each part. Part one, um 19 area 1900s era vampires.
Yep.
Brother fight is the best way to put it.
Hmm.
But it may have one of the best theme songs of all time. That
It
opener slaps.
The theme song is like a foundation. It gives you a really good idea of what you're getting into with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and this is going to be an 80s anime, but done super, super, super well technologically, but they are not changing the tone for shit. That song, like if you replace all the
Hmm.
instrumentation with like 80s MIDI stuff in the background, like that would sound like straight up an anime right out of the 80s, the way they're narrating the entire premise of the show in the
Hmm.
song. Um so
And
I
then I know everyone is always hesitant of watching part one. How did you power through part one? Were you hooked instantly, or did it take some time to get powered through?
I was personally hooked instantly because Dio Brando is the point of the first half of Phantom Blood is to go Dio Brando is a massive asshole because he was born that way. He was born to
He
a
was born
common
evil.
thief. He was born to a common thief, so sure, maybe he had some bad upbringing, but then he gets adopted by the Joestar family, who's very opulent, very nice, kind people. He's like, I will treat you exactly as well as I treat my own son. As far as I'm concerned, you are my own son. I don't care that I've adopted you. I will treat you as good as I treat Jonathan. And then Brando goes, I don't give a shit. I just wanna be rich and also fuck this Jonathan dude. I don't like him. I don't fuck him. I'm gonna just he's literally like, I'm going to destroy this entire man's career.
And Jonathan is the kindest soul. He
Yeah.
just wants to play his rugby and just hang out with his girlfriend and his dog. Rest in peace, his dog. Not the first dog to die, but
So
the first dog, but not the last.
yeah, yeah. Oh god. We'll get to that later, but
Yeah.
I think what helped me get into it is that I saw it kind of like a comedy series, like a comedy action series, and Dio is just such a obnoxious cartoony villain in that beginning part that I was just like, I got to see what this guy does because he's just so weird.
And then
Um
we get to weird Dio, like 5 years later, trying to get a stone mask from some random vendor in the streets,
yep. Yeah,
which
and
leads us down a entire long way to where we'll be in a few seasons.
yep. Yep.
With Dio putting on this mask and becoming a vampire, because that's how vampires work in this
Yep.
world. This mask
Yep.
makes them.
Yep.
And
I think
so
I think what also
Dio
is
then becomes
cool.
invincible.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They show like some really nice people getting the vampire mask, and as soon as the vampire mask turns them into the vampires, they turn evil. Like they
Yes.
stop being who they used to be, and they're evil. So the point of the show is to go, now Dio's going to get it, and he's already evil, so this will make him a billion times worse.
I am
And
now
that's funny.
super evil.
Yep.
And let's see there after that, which would be the next big thing would be Jonathan learning Hamon through my favorite waifu, Speedwagon. Shout out to
Speed.
Speedwagon.
Yep.
Which with Speedwagon I do want to bring up a small thing here is Hideo Akani's love of American 80s pop music and rock music through the naming
Yep.
of
Yep.
his characters. Because in the original manga, everything is a copyright infringement. They all
Oh
just
gosh. Yep.
straight up named bands and songs.
Yep. I actually every time I watch it specifically on my computer so that I
Mm-hmm.
could have another tab open. And whenever they introduce a new stand or a new character, I will look at the JoJo's wiki and be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so what's the reference? Where are we
Yeah.
going here? Some of them I can figure out, like a character named Santa Viento. I'm like, that's Santana. That's weird, but I get it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Speedwagon offers my has my favorite role in the show, which is unnecessary narrator, because the show already has a
Yes,
narrator
it
before
does.
it shows
Yeah.
up. And one of my favorite bits, I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but Speedwagon will be like, "Oh no, Jojo used Hamon so he wouldn't fall down." And the
Yeah. He caught himself with Hamon.
and then the narrator will be like, Jojo used Hamon to help himself not fall down. And I'm just like, this is great. This is unnecessary, but I find it funny. Um,
So
so, and, yeah,
we get to the end of part one, which ends with Dio supposedly being dead, locked in a casket at the bottom of the ocean after killing Jonathan. If I remember correctly, right?
yes,
Did they both went down?
yeah, because at first you think like he's already dead for real, and then Jonathan and was it Erina?
Yeah.
Was his wife? Okay, yeah. They board the ship, go to America to start a new life, to get away from the memories of Dio. And then it turns out the casket that they buried Dio in is on the boat. Dio breaks out, and then Jonathan is like, "I'm going to defeat you in the casket." And then the casket, oh, it gets like blown off of the boat, and then so Dio's Jonathan is like cradling Dio's head in the casket as it sinks into the water.
Yep.
And
And
then
that's the last we see of them for a little bit.
yep,
And then we move into mid 1920s, 1930s New York for
yep.
part two, which starts as far off. That'd be Joseph, right? Yeah, Joseph
Joseph
Joestar.
Joestar.
Joseph Joestar in a restaurant, I believe. It kicks that season off
Mm-hmm.
with him getting shot at through a restaurant door.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also the part where the cops are trying to do a racism against the black kid who very diversely is named Smokey. You know, a perfectly normal
Oh,
name
yep,
for
I
a
forgot his name
African
was
American
Smokey.
character. Um, and the only reason why I bring this up is because he uses a Coke bottle. He charges Hamon into it to
Yeah,
shoot
and
it
then
like a
this.
bullet, and
Mhm,
it like embeds itself in a guy's head. Like it doesn't kill him, but it like
mhm.
causes him to bleed from the head. Um, but then they get
And
into a fight with a vampire, and Jonathan is like, or Joseph is like, I don't know how to use my hamon to kill this guy, so I'm just gonna mow him down with a Tommy gun in the middle
mhm,
of a restaurant where people are eating.
yep, which he just had on him. He just
Yeah,
had a Tommy
yeah.
gun.
They don't show him pick it up. He
No,
just
it's
had it.
under the table. I believe he just sits up and just starts going.
It's mid 30s Prohibition era
Yeah,
New York. Like
everyone
that.
had a Tommy
That
gun. Just
sounds
how it worked.
believable.
And God, this would be seconds, which is now we're in the second season, and then I believe after that he goes meets Lisa to go learn Haman
Hmm.
through that with Speedwagon's kid, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which this is a big part of JoJo's is for
Well,
some reason everyone's kid knows everyone else's kid. Even though
yeah.
it's a world traveling show. Everybody meets everybody and the bloodlines keep going.
Yeah, because Joseph is British American, and then
Mm-hmm.
Caesar. Oh, so it wasn't Speedwagon; it was Zeppeli.
Zeppeli, that's right.
Zeppeli teaches him Hamon, and then
And
Speedwagon it's just his Cockney British friend that's
yes,
like
because
supportive.
Speedwagon at that point has started the Speedwagon Association,
Yeah.
which helps them travel around the world.
Yep. Yep. It's like just a giant hand waving, like, okay, so we can go on globe trotting because after the whole thing with Dio, Speedwagon was like, I'm a very rich man now. I'm starting a huge non-profit to like keep tabs on like supernatural shit in case Dio shows up and tries to fuck around again. So, and that's how we go on our globe trotting adventure in this
So
episode.
we get a fun rivalry there with Zappelli and Jonathan.
Yes, Joseph and
Joseph.
Caesar.
Joseph and Zappelli. We get a fun rivalry of them learning Hamon through climbing out of a giant hole.
Yep.
And the way Zappelli uses his Hamon is bubbles.
Yeah,
He blows bubbles.
yep. They don't really establish like I think there's a hand wavy moment when he first uses it where he pulls out like a little bottle and he like
He has
opens
soap
it
on his
like
hands.
yeah,
He keeps his hands soapy so he can like flick his finger, cause bubbles,
yeah.
and they explode.
Yep.
And while
And
this is all going on, we have vampires waking up, which is a clear 80s reference. We call them the Pillarman.
yep.
The Pillarmen wake up, and they are just these three. Um,
Are they
God,
Aztec?
I believe they are Aztec because I believe that's where the mask is from.
Yep. Yep.
Vampire monsters that have now
Yep.
arisen,
Mm-hmm.
and they are just. Oh, I don't think about JoJo. Every man is just buff as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is a brick shithouse. So these three near naked brick shithouse men awake from
Yep.
stone
Yep.
and walk out of a museum after killing a dude.
It's great. And then they just also happen to be named three infamous rock acts. You've
Yep.
got Santa Viento, aka Santana. You've got the best. We're trying to avoid copyright, so what can we do about it? The Japanese vowel, or like the way Japanese people pronounce ACDC, is
Wamu.
EISIDIACDC that way, and then
Yep.
Wamu. Yeah, the literal pronunciation for Wham in Japanese because the consonant vowel pairs. So Wamu, perfect. Just
Hmm.
great job.
So we
And
get them, and then we also um somehow get to Nazis
yeah,
with Rodel von Stronen, I believe was his name.
yeah, von Stronheim.
Who
Yeah,
who's a mecha Nazi with a gun in his chest?
yeah. At first he's just a regular Nazi, and then one of I can't remember which one, but one of the Pillarman like cuts off his torso
I
or
think it was
something.
ACDC.
Yeah. And then he appears several episodes later with like a robot body, and as the series continues, eventually he like loses an eye, and then he'll show up again with a robot eye.
Yeah, he just keeps getting more but bionicle in it throughout
Yeah.
it.
Um, this is part of why part two I like Jonathan Joseph more so than the part itself because they don't exactly make this guy seem like an asshole.
I
But
would
on the
honestly call him one of the protagonists.
he he is honestly like since Speedwagon isn't fighting in this part, he's kind of the Speedwagon of this game because Caesar is
Yes,
the Zephyr of this part.
he does do the narration, but it's in thick German accent, so it's even
Yeah.
better.
In Joseph's defense, though, Joseph is never happy to be around this guy.
No,
Every
no,
time he
Joseph
shows up, he's
hates him,
like,
and he was
"Oh
not sad
God, it
when he
died."
died.
Yeah, he was like, "Well, that's the thing. He doesn't die.
That's
Um,
right, he gets ripped in half, but they rebuild him.
he gets rebuilt, and then probably the part of this like you can tell this was written in the 80s by a Japanese person that was not super well versed in history because it ends with him going and then he fought valiantly in the battle of Stalingrad and killed this many
Yeah.
um, Russian soldiers on behalf
No,
of his
like,
allies,
oh sweet Jesus.
and I'm just like do you don't have to give him a heroic death post part like make I'd rather this guy gets torn up and nobody
Yeah,
has to feel bad about it. Like
but
he
my
does
boy
not deserve heroic
Zappelli
death.
gets crushed by a giant rock.
A giant rock shaped like a cross.
Lands on him and crushes him.
Caesar's death is an important point of the series because I think up until that point, I'm like, ah ha ha, look at these weird quirky characters in this JoJo's adventure. Because like I think before that, no, it might be after. Yeah, it's afterwards. Never mind. Because like one of the Pillarmen starts crying when he loses an arm.
Yeah.
But when Caesar dies, like that is a show going, we're serious now. These guys had a bond. They had a very close bond. They weren't boyfriend and boyfriend. They both like girls, but like they were very close. Um, and that's really and it genuinely made me feel something like when Caesar died. I'm like, okay, like this shit is getting real now.
And then we get to Jonathan defeating the Pillarman using, oh god, what was his main way of using Haman's clackers, right? Yeah.
For a couple fights, it's clackers.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
like,
the
he uses clackers because that's the opening. I'm like, oh, this is what
yeah.
this show's about.
Well, I think that's the funny part is I think like he uses them for one guy, and then the fight against the second guy, he breaks it, and then I think there's like 12 more episodes, and he doesn't use them ever again. And he didn't use them that much before that, so
No.
it's funny because like JoJo fans like to make it seem like that's his iconic weapon, the clackers, but it's kind of just a gag. How every time he pulls them out, he doesn't really do much with them. They're more of a distraction than anything
They
else.
are, because I believe he beats the final Pillarman by like kicking him into a volcano
Yep,
while falling to his death and somehow survives it.
yep, yep.
And then he marries the girl he met in it, Suzy Q, most basic of names.
Yep.
And that leads us into my personal favorite part. Part 3. The Stardust Crusaders. Joe Bros around the world in 80 days. Alright. We meet Jotaro, the most, I'd say, stoic of the Joe Bros. Where this man is just a brick shithouse who doesn't care and just wants to punch people. That's
My
all Jotaro wants to do.
to do like a very tiny like feature part of part 3. My favorite, the best way to describe Jotaro is that at one point they fight a stand that turns your age backwards, and they're like, "Oh no, how is Jotaro gonna get out of this one? He's 7 years old." And then Jotaro was like, "Actually, I was still a rough kid when I was 7," and he just wails on this adult, like a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
middle aged, like trained adult, and he just beats the shit out of him. And they're like, "That's Jotaro." Like,
Mhm.
this man was just always amazing. Jotaro kind of is such a weird protagonist because he's like literally a Gary Stu character. Like, he
Yeah.
is good at everything he does. Nothing ever phases him. He's never shocked. There's the meme of like girls will be like, "Oh, you're so cute," and they'll be like, "Shut the heck up, you're annoying." And then he'll turn his hat that I have on my shirt here.
Yeah. His hat hair?
His hat hair, yes, because there's one point where it blows off, and you're like, "Oh, part of that is like the hat has hair."
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, I hate all this.
it's, it's ridiculous.
Hey,
So the way part 3 brings drama is what I like to call it's the Goku format of writing, which is, your question is not how will Jotaro beat these people? It's how long will his friends last until Jotaro can show up and save the day.
Here's the interesting thing about his friends, though, is they all hold their own pretty much till
That
the
is,
end.
yes. Unlike TVZ, all of these are capable fighters. They're just, every
Yes.
so often they fight something just a little too strong, and they have to chip at them. And it's not like Goku, where like they're basically just losing. It's like they're actually doing damage or figuring out the weakness so that Jotaro can deal the killing blow.
And so this introduces what will now be replacing Hammond in the entirety of the show, which is stands. And stands are a basically energy force that comes out as a being outside of you that only other people's stands can see.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have weird, quirky abilities. Some of them are a fucking boat and a mine gorilla. That's
Yep.
one of them.
Yep.
And some of them are just punchy dudes. But they get real creative with them the longer they keep using them.
Yeah. They
The
introduced them in the early 80s, and they haven't stopped using them to this day. Like, Araki's
Nope.
still writing, and he's still coming up with new stands. That's how they've stand the test of time.
So we get to there, and then the basic premise for this one is that he is a Joestar, of course. His grandfather comes along and mentions stands, all that. I believe he gets him out of, is it juvie he was about to go to? Is he in a prison cell?
He was in like a jail confinement for like where they hold you before your court
Yeah,
date. But then he
because he's
pays the
dressed like a
bail.
typical Japanese delinquent.
Yes.
The school
Well,
jacket busted open, the chain.
that's the weird
Yeah,
thing, is that this is a high school uniform, but then
yeah,
like the hat and the chain are stuff he added to it.
yeah,
But also some of the, like, you can't see them on the shirt, but like he has some like extra buttons and stuff that
yeah.
are I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to have. But although eventually we get to see Kakyoin, and he has like a totally different school uniform, and it's like, you guys
Yeah,
go
I
to the
never
same school.
understood that one. Which, because he is from the same town as him, I believe.
I think they're the same school. Is it? It might not be. I thought it's been a second, even though it was like literally a couple months
Well,
ago. I was at
because he I remember he used his green.
Oh, I remember what happened. He attacks Jotaro. He like fakes going to the nurse, the school nurse, and then
Yes.
Jotaro investigates, and then he attacks him from there, which doesn't make sense because that means that they're at the same school. Like they go to the same school.
Mhm.
If like he's attacking him at the school and he knows that, so
Yes, and his stand is Green Halfamet, which just a long, lanky boy that can slice things. And so we then begin to realize that through uh Joseph's stand, which is his ability to touch technology and be able to look through anything at a person. It's actually extremely handy.
yes,
He can just take photos of anywhere in the world as long as there's a screen near it.
yep.
So we learn Dio is alive, and his father told him stories of Dio, and now he is telling them to his grandson. And he's like, "You are a buff as fuck kid with one of the strongest stands in the world. We need to go stop Dio." And before they get a chance to go leave and do that, his mother gets sick. So now we're on that 80-day timer that his mother will die in a couple of weeks if they don't go figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the first half of this show is gathering the team, and the second half is going to go fight Dio. And the first one is around the world to get to Egypt. The other half is fighting in Egypt.
Yes.
So we get the first two together. I believe. Oh god, what's his name? Amdal.
So, in the English subtitles, they translate it to Abdul, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Abdul,
Yeah,
like
it's
the Arabic
Abdul,
name.
right? Yeah,
Like there have been
he,
several like popular musicians named like there's Paula Abdul and other
yeah,
artists like that.
it's Abdul, and I believe he is not a villain ever. He has always been good. He was never trying to attack them.
Yes, I don't know if there's any mind control moments that happen, but other than something like that, where like a stand controls him,
Yeah, but he doesn't have
yeah,
the problem of like Kirk, who was mind controlled and tried to attack
yep.
him. That he gets on mind control. He's like, I want to go fuck up Dio. He mind controlled me. We learned Dio can put this little spike in the back of your neck and control you.
Speaking of which, Kakyoin Hierophant Green has a type of power that is never used after this part, which is that because it can like they do highlight that it can grow and
Mhm.
shrink in size. He can like shove it into people's bodies to control them. Like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
does
he
that
can
to
like
the
take
nurse.
over their bodies. Yeah.
And then this is where we get to the JoJo's mechanic of Araki forgot.
Yeah.
Araki never does it again because he forgets that's a thing he
Mhm.
can do, and he just focuses on how he can stretch around and shoot a bunch of emeralds with the attack emerald splash.
And now we get to one of my favorite characters in all of JoJo, Panaref. God, I love him. Or the French bastard with a sword. One of my favorite stand designs of just a fencer. It's great.
Yeah, Silver Chariot is a iconic stand. It's just it's a very good example of conveying the variety you can get with stands,
Hmm.
but it's also just like in an RPG party, you have Magician's Red with Abdul, who is just a bird that shoots flames. You have the Bruiser with Star Platinum, just punches a bunch of shit, and then you got the Sword guy with Silver Chariot, very precise stabbing, very speedy boy.
And he's just great.
Mhm.
He brings the team together. He is just the comedy aspect of the team, but he can also hold his own in a fight. He's one of the fastest, most powerful stands.
Personality wise, he kind of starts the trend of JoJo himbos. Which is
Yes.
not to say that like Speedwagon was kind of that in part one, part
Hmm.
two, Stronheim you can kind of stretch it, but
Hmm.
Polnareff is like occasionally just a massive dumbass that doesn't see
Yes.
anything that's going on, and it's hilarious. But he's also endearing because like there's a moment where they're like underwater and someone is or I can't remember what the context was, but someone was like, "What is that? What is?" Oh, they're doing like hand signs, and then Kakyoin was like, "Do you know what this sign means?" Or no. Polnareff is like, "Do you know what this
Yeah.
sign means?" And Kakyoin is like, "That means you just farted." And then they're like, "Hell yeah!" And then they do like a
Yeah.
30-second like handshake thing that like they've never done before, they never do again. And it's just funny because they're buddies, even though Polnareff is supposed to be in his like 22, and
Yeah,
then
he's mid 20, early 20s, I believe,
and
if
then
not 19,
yep,
20.
and then Kakyoin and Jotaro are like
And then
17.
to round out the weirdness of this group is a fucking dog, Iggy.
Yep.
We get Iggy, who is God, what was Iggy's stand again?
I think it's just the fool. Like normally
It's just the fool.
everyone gets because they're all based on a Arcana Tarot.
Hmm.
But I think Iggy Stan doesn't get anything other than the fool. Yeah, it's just the fool, which is interesting because like other ones have like a color or element um lean to them, but he just gets the fool, which looks like a
Which
race car
make
guy.
Yeah, it's a big race car that he can use.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our team that we've gone on this journey with. The first part, we gather them all. Now we're in Egypt. And shout out to whoever spent the money to get the end credits be Walk Like an Egyptian. It adds just the right amount of flair.
Yep.
I was like, this is good use of copyright music right here.
Oh, we went too fast through parts 1 and 2. We didn't get a chance to talk about Roundabout.
Oh my
That's how
god, the
the show
biggest
got
meme.
big.
Yeah.
The to be continued me, where he just
Yeah.
shows something terrible right before it happens, and then just go
Yeah. Gets funky.
um the investment into classic American rock music really makes the show, like, contributes to it. It would be weird if it didn't have it.
It would be. And then we get to just some fun fights in Cairo. Iggy versus Pet Shop's amazing.
It
It's one of the most brutal fights in the show.
it is so cool because they give and it's never him actually talking, it's just him thinking and we're hearing his
Yeah.
thoughts, but they give him a voice. And it's really interesting because in Japanese they do the typical thing where what they do with animal sidekicks, where he has kind of like a little boy, teenage boy voice, sort of
And
like
in
how
American talks like a New Yorker, right?
he sounds like Joe Pesci. He's like,
Yeah.
this pet shop guy is stand is really strong. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get out of this. But I think that it works because he is like kind of like the things he says, even with the subtitles, are like these tough things. Where like, this guy's really dragging me down. I didn't even want to be here. So I kind of dug it. And it's only a couple episodes too, because like after that episode, he doesn't talk anymore since he's
No.
with the humans again.
And then we get to the main bad boy, which is Dio is back.
Yep.
Dio is back in full effect, and we learn he ripped off his own head. He ripped off Jonathan's head and attached his head to his body. So he's now part Joestar and part Dio Brando,
Yep.
which allows him to have the most powerful stand the worldo, the world,
Zawarudo. Yep.
which allows him to instantly stop time, which also can punch like a motherfucking truck.
Both the world starts to make an annoying trend in JoJo's, which is after this point we start getting a not a lot, but every stand at some point there's one guy with a stand whose stand is, I am like Star Platinum, but I stop time. I am like Star Platinum, but I do a little funky thing on the side as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they're all like, I can punch the shit out of stuff, but also I can do a side thing.
Yes,
Um, but as the big bad, it's really cool.
it is, and it's the first time that we've seen, because they didn't have a lot of trouble fighting a lot of the people. It was trouble of infighting and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But until we get to the gamer, which is one of
Yeah.
my favorite episodes, of where one of the guys stands at video game console, you have to beat him at video games, and he is cheating the system entirely.
Actually, I think it's weird because that's not his stand. His stand is, I can turn you into puppets, beat me at a video game, and I won't
That's
turn you into
right,
a
and I
puppet.
won't turn you into a puppet.
But I guess the weird way his stand works is that like It is, but it's locked into his gambling. Both characters,
Yes,
because the other guy also has a stand. He has a brother
they're brothers.
that does gambling,
Because the
but
brother does
like
gambling, he does gaming.
yes, and then as soon as they like concede, the stand is like, "I ain't doing shit now. You gave up, you little bitch."
Yep.
Um, which doesn't seem to be like part of the stand's rules. Like they don't say it's the
No, they
rule.
usually just do what you say.
Yeah, it's just they're so dedicated to the gamble that they're like, "You beat me, I lost. Guess I gotta let you beat the shit out of me
So
now."
now we all have these five great characters going up against Dio in a fantastic 3 episode long fight where sadly right off the bat we lose Kirisuke. He is just bodied by Dio. They thought they had him trapped on the city street. They didn't.
Well, you forgot in the fight before that, they fight a guy called what is it? I forgot what the English name was, but
It's
Vanilla
Vanilla
Ice.
Ice, isn't it?
Vanilla Ice is the actual name. I think they call it Cold Vanilla in English in the
Yeah.
subtitles. But Vanilla Ice is what everyone calls him. It's really obvious that's what it is. His thing is that his stand can go into a other dimensional portal that only
Mhm.
he can survive in. If anyone besides him and his stand gets into it, they are just devoured into nothingness. And the way we are introduced to him is Abdul looks back, he sees him coming at them, he shoves Polnareff and Iggy out of the way, and then he is dead. Nothing is left but his severed arms. And at first you're like, he's gonna come out, like it's a pocket dimension that he can do something, and the show's like, no, after the fight, the show's like, Abdul is dead. He is dead for realsies. Completely dead. And Iggy dies by the end of the fight too, because he ends up getting mortal wounds and then using his stand to protect Polnareff from a potentially killing blow. And then Polnareff is the one that kills Vanilla Ice. But
Yes.
before they even get to Dio and the like stairway up to him, Abdul and Iggy die. And
Yes.
it's not a glorious death for Abdul. It is a very sudden,
He gets
shocking
bodied.
death.
He gets bodied.
It's rough. I appreciate it from the perspective of sometimes the most powerful deaths can be the sudden deaths.
Mhm.
It is a little frustrating that it's like the only non-white, non-Asian guy. Um, or
I understand
usually
that, but he
Middle
did
East.
have an amazing role in that show, and he was
Yes,
never
yes.
played to be.
Overall, yeah,
He was played to be one of the most powerful characters they had in that
definitely.
team.
Yeah, that the reason why they kill him off is
Mhm.
because the fight against Dio would have been a little too easy if they had a giant bird that can shoot fire.
Yes.
So,
So then we get to the fight. We lose Kirisuke right off the bat. He gets shot through the chest. He just gets punched through the chest, I believe. And then it's down to Polnareff, Jonathan, and Jotaro.
yep,
And then we get to the epic fight, which is Polnareff and Jonathan both get fucked up. Polnareff and Joseph, they get fucked up easily. And then we get to Jotaro versus Dio, which brings some amazing moments such as a massive truck destroying you,
yep.
a the worldo itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then Star Platinum trump carding the worldo.
Yep. Just oh yeah, I can time travel too. Why? I can. Fuck you.
Like,
I win. It's literally like when you would play games with a little kid and with when you were a little kid, and then you
yeah,
just go, "Well, I can stop time too. I win now." And you're like, "What?" Um. By the way, the Dio just kind of disappearing for a couple seconds and then reappearing and being like, "Road Roller." That was
yeah.
my introduction to Jojo. Was actually when I would see random like Mugen fights on YouTube, and I would just see
That was
this
always a
yellow
classic
dude show up
Mugen.
and then just
Yeah.
like with a steamroller, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's a thing." And
And
I did
now
not realize that was Dio until I watched this for the very first time.
now we get to some people's favorite parts, a really mixed part of JoJo. It's a part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. Diamond is Unbreakable really slows Jojo down into a weird mystery show,
Mm-hmm.
which stars Josuke, another one of Joseph's grandchildren, I believe.
Illegitimate child he had with a
Yeah.
21-year-old somewhere around the events of part 3, because they're
Mhm.
literally like, yeah, that was happening right around either before or just after,
Yeah.
which is what it made it him 60.
So
um
he's this kid. He has a pompadour. He's a little bit meek and everything, but he has one of the most powerful stands,
yep.
which is Store Diamond,
uh
right?
I think it's like Crazy Diamond.
Crazy Diamond. Yes.
Yeah, like the
Like,
Queen song.
yeah, and he can reform anything to its original matter and shape. He can instantly fix injuries. He can instantly fix everything. So we get through that, and then we learn, well, um, weird shit is happening in the town. Murders, all this. It's a small town. It's very Twin Peaks is the best way to put it. It's Twin Peaks meets JoJo.
Yep. This, you can definitely tell that while he was finishing up part 3, Araki was watching Twin Peaks, and then as soon as he finished part 3, he's like, I want to do this Twin Peaks kind of thing, but with stands. And then he does the very unnecessary thing of being like, oh, by the way, here's how stands work. There's a stand arrow, and if you shoot a guy with a stand arrow and he doesn't die, he gets a stand. That's how everyone got stands. I bet you didn't know that. Remember how I talked about how Kakyoin has had a stand ever since he was a kid and it got him made fun of? At some point as a child, he was shot with a stand arrow, I guess. Um, I guess Polnareff
Now
too. But
we
yeah,
are going to, just because we're running close to time, I'm going to skim through part 3. Really, the two notable things in part 4, is the introduction of Crazy Diamond, how
yep.
insanely crazy he is. A lot of things of the week, murdering happening, and we get to two important characters. One being Rona Kisube, because he is a returning character.
He gets his own spin-off
He
series.
does, and it's hilarious. That's a fantastic show. It's just him traveling the world. He's
Yep.
this manga writer who is just a bit of a douchebag.
Who may be a self-insert for Rocky.
Oh, he 100% is a self-insert. He has
Rocky
one of the
won't
most
say it,
he has one
but
of the most powerful stands in the
yeah.
entire show.
Yep.
He is a self-insert. And we get Yosakage Kira, who's the main protagonist of it, a serial killer, and he has probably my favorite stand, Killer Queen. I
Queen.
love Killer Queen.
Yep.
And all the different forms Killer Queen can take, like the little tank robot thing that it can go around in.
I forget what that one's called. I know the time travel thing is bites the dusto.
Oh god, I forget which one it is too, but he's just an interesting character. He's just this
Yeah.
crazy, very calm, very um God, American Psycho-esque character of
Mhm.
the businessman serial killer.
Yep.
But he has a stand, and he can also control people, because really how JoJo really works. A lot of controlling of minds.
Mhm.
So we power through that, and then we get to one of my favorite parts, part 5, which uh Italian mobsters, and the first time we break away kinda from the main JoJo family with
We know.
Giovanna.
Because when you think about it, if it's Dio's head on Jonathan's body,
Mhm. He is a
he's
Joestar.
still a Joestar. Like, that's not Dio's seed.
No, he is,
That's
but he has
Jonathan's.
Dio's blonde hair with the
Yeah.
name written in the hair,
Yep. For some reason.
which this is when I would say this is the most bizarre of the adventures. Is
Yeah.
part 5, which is mob takeover basically. He joins a mafia
Which is funny
and
because the premise of 5 stand users try to take over the mafia. Sounds so straightforward. So straightforward.
It's
And then it
not.
just goes all over the place.
This is the most wild one where it, well, till we get the later parts that have not been animated yet,
Yeah,
where
I've
we
I've heard some things about those.
uh fucking part seven's amazing. Fucking Cannonball Run, it's a good time. So basically, plot of that is we have him, which God, what is his stand again?
Um, I think it's Gold Experience.
It's Golden Experience, and it's surprisingly weaker for a JoJo stand till it isn't.
Interesting. I didn't finish part 6, but I don't mind getting some of it spoiled for the sake of the podcast.
You mean part 5?
Part 5, yes. I didn't finish Giorno's adventure, but
How far are into it are you? Is the whole gang together?
yes, I saw the whole gang. I got up to, let's just call it the baby stand, or the guy that makes baby stands.
Okay. Did you meet our friend Polnareff again?
Yes.
Okay. So you're pretty far in.
Okay.
Yeah, Golden Experience Requiem. That's it.
Yeah.
So, to save John from some spoilers, 'cause I do think the ending of it's insane. This one is crazy Italian mafia takeover. That is the absolute best way to put it. And for my last two questions here for you are: one, what is your favorite stand?
Oh, favorite stand. For some reason I wasn't prepared for this. There are so many cool powers and abilities. Uh, just to make it faster, I think I'm gonna go with we didn't talk about him, but the himbo of part 4, Okiasu, his stand is the hand. Which is he can just like kind of scrape the world to make portals that he can teleport with.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's not too different from what's the other guys?
Vanilla Ice.
But Vanilla Ice's stand. I just think it looks cooler, and the way it does it is a cooler version. So I think that's kind of one of my favorite like combinations of stands and designs. I also really like Bucciarati's stand Zipper Fingers.
Zipper Fingers is awesome.
Or it's called Sticky Fingers in English to avoid the Prince album reference. They call it
Yep.
Zipperman. Neither of those are like make set or
No.
Zipperman sounds dumb. Sticky Fingers doesn't let you know what the hell it does.
It doesn't do anything to do with him having sticky fingers. He can open
Yeah,
shit.
it's not a Prince album. It's a I think it was an Aerosmith album
It's an
that
Aerosmith album.
that had a zipper on it.
Yeah, it's a zipping open of a pants. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Explain the power for me.
For Zipperman, he can make zippers everywhere. Nomura, this inspired Nomura's entire art career. Um, he can make anything a zipper. It's not painful. It opens up whatever is on it. He can like make zippers on his arms to like extend his body. He can
Yep.
make zipper portals. Actually, you know what? It's Zipperman because he gets the portals. It's a
Yeah.
cool looking stand, and it's like a really unique aspect where it's
Mhm.
like zippers, and he's just literally like popping in and out of everywhere. Or like if someone tries to cut off his arm, he can unzip his arm and split it open that way, and it doesn't hurt him. He can zip people themselves and like shove things in people that way or take stuff out, and that's also not painful unless he does something like unzips you, shoves a grenade in your body, zips you back up. You got a grenade in your body now. Got to figure out how to deal with that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Zipperman,
All
aka
right, and for
Sticky
me, it'd
Fingers.
either be Killer Queen or Silver Chariot. Those have always been my two favorites. I have little statues of them behind me. They're fantastic. And my final question is excitement for part 6. Are you excited?
I'm so excited. I've been rewatching JoJo specifically so that I can have all this fresh in my mind as I go into part 6. We're getting the girl Jojo, which is always exciting when a series that's always been about male
I
protagonists
love
is like
Jolene.
time for a girl.
Jolene and her friends are fantastic.
It takes place in Florida, so like JoJo's has already been weird existing in Japan, in Europe,
Mhm.
Rome, Italy, what was the England, France sometimes. Now we're going to Florida, where if you told me it's going to be a true story, I'll probably believe you. Florida is a screwed up place. It starts out as a prison break show. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to meet new female JoJo bros. Jotaro is her dad, so we get that Joseph
Yeah,
Jotaro dynamic, but now it's Jotaro and Jolene.
Jolene.
I'm just so
It's
excited.
great. And with that, we get to the end of our show with the last thing is going to be, it's going to be Manga Corner with a brand new show, a brand new manga from Shonen Jump I'm going to be shouting out today, which is Ashaman. Has one chapter out so far, and it definitely feels like it's running up there to try and fill the gaps that Shonen Jump has at the moment with the loss of Demon Slayer and other big titles over the past few years. It is about a man who dreams of becoming a manga protagonist, and he is just imagine Saitama meets Jujutsu Kaisen, but the Yakuza doesn't think the Yakuza thinks he's a demon, so they send demons after him. So it's powered up, non-caring Saitama fighting demon Yakuza.
Interesting. I
It's a
feel like
fun time.
I heard something about this as well.
And with that, we get to plugs. Anything you want to plug today?
I'm not gonna plug anything for myself, but the one thing I just want to mention is part of the reason why I'm excited about Part 6 is that they announced the English dub cast, and a voice actress by the name of Kira Buckland got casted as Jolene Cujo, which, if you don't know, she's voiced 2B. She's voiced a lot of characters in anime and stuff. She got her start in actually the Newgrounds like fan animation scene
Yes, that's how I heard
back
of her.
since I think around 2011, 2013 is when she started like getting put into actual professional productions.
Mhm.
As soon as she was starting to be interviewed, whenever people would be like, "What's a character you would love to voice?" She was like, "I hope this JoJo's thing gets to part 6. I want to be Jolene. Jolene is my favorite character. She's cosplayed Jolene several times. She's a big fighting game fan, and her fight stick is just a giant Jolene poster. Artwork and buttons wise. So I'm just very, very happy for her because she is playing the character of her dreams. It's really cool to see someone who like started as just a fan who was like, I would like to become a voice actor. When I was a teenager, like she was doing that when I could have been doing it. And now she's getting to voice her favorite character when she started. Like the anime was just about to start. Who
Yeah,
We weren't sure that we would get all the way to part 6. They'd have to get to part 3 first. Hopefully, get a second season after parts 1 and 2 to do 3. Um, and make sure nobody lost interest in the middle of parts 4 and 5. But I'm just really happy for her for that. If you want to
that
hear
is great.
me talk about that, you can go to my Twitter at Noisy Shark.
And to find out whatever I'm doing and wherever I will be on this wild world, the internet, you can go to at twitter.com Ryan the Lion 3055 for whatever I'm doing. That was Anime Nation. Thanks for watching. Good night.